I'm Dr. Melissa Longo. Welcome to Everyday Rockstar Moms, where every episode I'll interview moms just like you who are rocking it in their homes, raising their children, managing their households, building their careers, working on their relationships, dealing with challenges, finding success, trying to find balance, and themselves along the way. Every episode you'll hear from women just like you of all ages and stages of motherhood, sharing their stories, life experiences, and leaving you with practical tips, ideas, and inspiration to help you rock your life. Hey Kim, welcome to the show.
Hi Melissa.
I'm so glad that you and I have been able to coordinate this over the seas.
Yes, I know it is a big time change.
Kim and I have known each other since we were in school together, and now Kim lives in Australia with her family. Kim, why don't you tell everyone else a little bit about yourself and where you're at right now with your life, because I know a lot of it.
I am a chiropractor in Australia. We have 2 clinics here. I've been married for 10 years this August, and we have 2 beautiful kids that are twins, and they're 5 this year.
So life is full.
It is. It's wonderful.
How does your work life and your family life offset each other? Like, do you have certain hours that you're dedicated to the practice and times when you're off with the kids, or are you full-time in the practice?
Brian and I are both chiropractors, so my husband's a chiropractor as well. So we offset our hours for the most part so that either one of us is able to pick the kids or drop them off from school and the other one's at work. And then there's a couple days we do overlap and we both work, and we have a wonderful babysitter who helps us out when we need her to.
What's it like working with your spouse?
I know everyone asks that question, and I don't know, it's wonderful because we both have something we're trying to build together. So when we come home from work, we definitely talk about work, but we share the same values and trying to build that together. And also, as a chiropractor, you know what it's like. You don't work with that person. So we work opposite hours, opposite times. We just share the same, trying to build a strong practice together. So it's really good, actually.
Yeah, so it sounds like you're complementing each other in the practice.
Yeah, no, it's good. And he has different areas where he wants to be in the practice. So he really likes to see athletes and elderly people. And he does some dry needling, and I like to focus on pregnant moms and babies and families. So we kind of shove people in different directions that way. So it works really well for us.
Well, that actually sounds perfect because you've got specialty to meet everyone's needs.
You know, it's really good, actually.
So if even when you guys are home together, you're talking about the practice, you've been married together for 10 years now. What are your strategies for keeping your marriage, your personal relationship strong?
Well, because we don't have any family here, so we're here all on our own, we don't actually get that many nights out on our own, but we still try to have a good Saturday night that we either sit together, debrief the week, or have a nice bottle of wine or watch a movie. But we do try to keep Saturday nights to ourselves so that we enjoy each other's company on Saturday nights.
So that's one of your rituals every week?
Yes, it's either is Saturday or Sunday night. So my husband's very much a homebody, so I'm more social, and I like to go out and do things with friends, and he will, but he really does love being here with us as a family. So we always try to make sure we have some time together here in our nice comfort of our house, so that I don't feel like I'm bringing him everywhere. Let's go to this birthday party, or let's have a barbecue, so it's good. We try to actually make sure we do commit time for each other, that's for sure.
Yeah, well, you have, with young children and a growing business, it can certainly be difficult.
Definitely.
So let's talk about the twins. That's your only experience as a mother, is having 2 at once.
Yes, I know. That was a big shock when we found out we were having twins.
You said though in our pre-chat that you thought it was easy. When a lot of us hearing the story of twins think, oh my goodness, one child is more than a handful at times.
I know, but I think it was because Brian and I really wanted to be parents, and it did take us a little while to get pregnant. So when we found out we were pregnant, we were over the moon. We were so excited. And then to go to our 20-week scan, the first time we found out it was actually twins, we were like, oh my goodness, this is fantastic. So we were over the moon right from the beginning. And my mom's a twin, and she was very excited because she has a twin brother. So she was very excited that we were having twins. So yeah, it was really exciting.
And life with the twins has just rolled along, it sounds like.
Yeah, it's really good. They enjoy each other's company. They co-slept when they were babies. They still share a room at 5. They have 2 single beds in the same room. They've always went to bed together, talked and chatted. So I feel like they've have each other as well as have us as a family.
So what was that like after when you had to take time off out of practice when the twins were born, and then afterwards? Did you feel any hesitation stepping away from your practice for that time?
Yes, because we just started creating our own practice. So we just bought the practice, and I just started having a really good patient base, and it was very exciting in practice. So it was hard to step away from it, but I knew it was for a good reason. And I knew I could go back to it after, the babies were settled in, and I went back part-time when they were only 4 months old. So it didn't take me long to get back into practice. Mm-hmm. So I just started off slowly again and worked part-time and started establishing the practice again.
And then from that point on, is that when you and Brian would flip your time in the office so that one of you was always home with the kids?
Yes, definitely. For the first 3 years of their lives, they didn't have anybody else taking care of them except for Brian or I.
Lucky kids.
Yeah, we were very fortunate for that, because I do have lots of friends that had to use childcare, but we just felt like it was important for us to try to keep one of us home with them while we could.
Yeah. And so now still you've got a practice that you're growing, working together, and 2 adorable children at home. Do you ever feel pulled, like that you'd like to spend more time with the kids or more time in your practice? Do you ever feel that strain?
Yeah, I think every working mom would feel that for sure, especially the weeks where you're really busy at work and you're running late for things, or you're just always on that struggle for time. So I feel like sometimes they're kind of pushed and pulled a little bit when you're trying to get places. But we just have always brought them to work if we have to. So if we know we have to go in a bit early, they'll just go in for an hour with us and sit there and wait. And they've been at work a lot. So a lot of our patients know them, seen them grow. And we have a little back room that we have that's theirs, so they can go back there while we're at work. So I feel like they're part of the practice as well.
Well, and if having a family practice, it fits as well sometimes when they're there, I'm sure.
Yeah, that's how we started having our babysitter, actually. When we didn't want to put them in childcare yet, and Brian and I wanted to pick up more shifts, so we actually brought Kayla into the practice into the back room, and she just stayed with them in the back room to make sure they were okay while we were working. So I didn't have to worry about them, because it's like, as a chiropractor, you can't really keep checking on your child when you're adjusting patients. So yeah. We just had her in the back room, and if she needed us, she'd just go say to the CA, "Can you please go get Kim or Brian? I just need to ask them a question." So it was really good, actually.
Well, it sounds like most working women, you've just found ways to make it work for you guys.
Yeah, we did.
So what do you say to the moms that you work with who are trying to really balance or try to find some sense of calm while juggling their work life and their family life? What are your tips for that? Anything?
I do think that it does help to have a good support surrounding you. So we did find that hard, not having any immediate family here, until we found that extra support and help. So we really do. We do appreciate and rely a lot on Kayla, because she's the only one we call all the time. But I do think you need to find some support structure or someone who can assist you if you want to make life work well with being a working mom.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes for some women, they've said that, it's been hard for them to need to ask for help.
Definitely. I think it is hard to ask for help, especially when it's not your own mom.
Yeah.
Like my mom comes every year, and my mom and her new partner, they come every year, and they stay with us for 3 months sometimes. So when they're here, it's fantastic. You kind of forget that. But yeah, no, it would be easier to have that quick, "Hey mom, can you just come over and watch the kids while I run out and grab this?" Instead, we've been used to saying, "Hey kids, we have to go do this. Just hop in the car," and we had to get out and do this. And they've been everywhere with me. So even the most hilarious places, they're like, "You brought your kids?" I'm like, "I had no choice. I had to bring them." So
yeah, I remember those days though, and now I miss them in some ways, because my boys being 10 and 14, they don't want to do some of the things that I want to do. And before, it used to be we would spend time together constantly, because they would just be tagging along with me. Whatever errands I had to do, whatever places I wanted to go, they would be with me. And it was still fun, when they're young children, you can have fun with kids doing anything almost. But now they have opinions about, well, I don't want to go to the farmer's market. I'm going to stay here and do my thing. You go to the market and I'll meet you later. So it's a different way to connect with your kids though in those early years.
Definitely. And I think it's great when they do things with you that they see what you do or where you get things from, or like you said, going to a farmer's market, then they see a farmer's market, not just you go grab them and come back.
Yeah.
It's always good when they can see like where things happen or how things work. And I think it's great for our kids to see Brian and I both work. I think that's wonderful that they see that we both are, putting into this family and trying to make this family work together. So I think that's really good.
Yeah, and now my son Max is at the age where he actually works for me. So he does some of my my work in the practice, some of the stuff that I need some help with. And he's, they're tasks that are age appropriate for him at 14. But it gives him some ownership. And I definitely think it helps him see what running a business is like. So yeah, there's lots of different times that we can teach our kids different things. Have you had any challenging moments as a mom? Like your kids are 5 now. Are there any current struggles you're having, or any times when being the mom of twins was really a challenge for you?
I think just every different age you go through with your child brings different challenges. So we've never really, everyone used to say, oh, wait till they're 2 or wait till they're 3. And we never really had like terrible 2s or whatever they call the 3-year-olds. So I was always just waiting for it to get really bad, but it never really did. And so then now people say, oh, wait till they're teenagers. I'm like, I hope not, because they've been so good so far. Yeah. Not saying they don't have their days, but like we haven't had any really big struggles with them. It's been really good for the most part.
Yeah, I would have to say the same. I didn't have any of those that experience of, the terrible 2s or, all the different ages when people typically have challenges with their kids. My boys were not like that. And even at the teenage years now, there's definitely a little bit of moodiness at times. And there can be a few, struggles for power between my son and I. But generally, I would say he's a pretty solid, good kid too. So I'm sure that part of that comes from the environment that we're creating for them at home.
Yeah, well, I think so. I definitely think that if you give them a good environment, then they do have that.
Yeah. So with you juggling, your practice life, your marriage, your motherhood, what are the things that help you be at your best? Do you have any really specific lifestyle practices that help you perform?
Well, I remember I did get a coach and a mentor after I went back to practice after the kids, and just to try to get myself back into things and get my priorities straight. And she did tell me that you always have to have present time consciousness. So wherever you are in your life, because you're so busy, if you are paying the staff, you need to be paying the staff. If you're with your children, you need to be with your children, not with your children thinking about paying your staff. Or when you walk into work, you need to put your work shoes on and be with that patient. And then even remember that she even broke it down as far to say, when you leave that patient, take the next patient and be with that patient, so that you don't actually just go, okay, I'm at work, I have to be at work. So she's like, every single moment you're in, you have to basically align yourself with that moment, be in that moment. So it was the best advice that I could have. So it made me really appreciate my patients. Plus, when I got home, I left that at the door and picked up my mom's shoes and started playing with my kids and enjoying them in that moment. Mm-hmm.
For some reason, I don't feel like that would be too difficult for you, knowing your personality.
Yeah, because you know what it's like when you're still trying to do everything at once. And I do, when I walk into my clinic now, I just started doing a little bit of, I shut my treatment room door and take a few deep breaths, do a few yoga poses, and feel like I've just now started having a bit more time for myself. So I do get a massage once every 4 weeks. I do infrared sauna and a massage every 4 weeks. And I feel like once you start taking care of yourself a little bit more too, then you actually feel like you're better everywhere in life.
Oh, absolutely. Do you have any specific nutritional habits or sleep habits or exercise routines that are really important for you?
Yeah. After I left CMCC, I was diagnosed with celiac. So I am gluten-free, and our family is gluten-free, and we're pretty much dairy-free. And I try to limit my sugar, but I definitely still eat chocolate. Mm-hmm. And exercise, I like to have a goal of exercise, to do something with exercise once a year. So before Brian and I got married, we ran a marathon together. Then I had children, and then my exercise went downhill for a couple of years while I was having kids. And then I just started doing a few fun, like True Grit stuff. And I just try to find a fun goal to do something. Like this year, we're going to run a 3K race as a family, which is going to be walk running, but that'll be exciting just to do it as a family. So yeah, I just try to do some fun things so it encourages the kids to actually see us exercising so they know how important it is to take care of your body as well.
Absolutely. So being a mom, are there anything, any specific challenges that you've had from other people? I mean, I don't know about you, but I've had comments from people about, the kids' sleep habits, or, when you're pregnant, you've got strangers coming up to you and giving you advice that you don't want, and, how you look after your children's health care and how long you nurse. People have comments, and it seems about everything. Have you ever had any situations where someone challenged you or criticized you regarding a choice you were making for your family, and how did you deal with that if you did?
Yeah, I think as a chiropractor, because you're kind of going down a different path than a lot of people, I think you're just used to, well, it sounds bad to say used to, but I guess you're just accustomed to having people challenge you in your beliefs. So I think a lot of things actually challenge you a little bit. Even with your profession, people will say, like right now in Australia, there's a lot of media with children in chiropractic. So right now I'm getting criticism on that. So that's really hard when that's like the best part of my part as a chiropractor right now is seeing so many pregnant moms and babies. So that's being criticized. And then as a mom, you get criticized because of the way you raised your kids, because you're trying to do it more naturally. Like you don't just take them somewhere just because they're coughing and get them antibiotics. So I think it's always just a little bit like a criticism. So when you try to go down a little bit of a different route than the rest of the people, I think you always have to take criticism from people as you're doing that. But I think it makes you stronger. It makes you do stronger research and be stronger in your convictions, and brings you back to why you believe that.
Yeah, and is that have you dealt with that personally? If someone's challenged you, like, do you just turn inward and find more support for your beliefs, or is it something you and Brian, you talk about, or? Because a lot of moms go through the exact same thing, right? They're taking their kid to a chiropractor, and they really believe it. They've seen it work wonders for their child, and yet they're getting flack from someone else in their life and having to deal with that. So many women deal with all kinds of challenges. If you have any advice about how to get through that, I'm sure people would love to hear it.
I do actually tell them to talk with that. And even if it was a challenge, like as a mom, because a lot of moms will say so-and-so didn't want me to bring them to a chiropractor, and I'll say, well, who said that? And I would love if you bring them in and watch me adjust your child. It's not the same as me adjusting an adult. And even if it's a pediatrician who said that, I'm like, ask the pediatrician if they've seen a chiropractor, ask the pediatrician if they've been to one. So I kind of try to put it back on them. And I'm very open about, people might say you shouldn't, or because I'd rather bring it up than say, oh, that's not true. So right. And then I say, ask them to come in and watch. And there is so much research out there that shows that it's safe and effective and it's not going to harm your baby. So I guess it's hard because they're hearing it from a lot of different places. So I just tell them to bring people in, get them to talk to me. And I do more research that way. And then I guess I say, do you believe that this is harming your child? And they'll say no. And I'll say, this is why. And if I feel like if we show them what we're doing, that actually allows them to be more, I don't know, more accepting to what you're doing with their child. And I guess it's the same as when I make decisions as a mom. Mm-hmm. If you explain why you're doing it or why you chose that path and you have a good reason why, most people don't go, that's just ridiculous. They kind of go, oh.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think some people have just made decisions throughout their life because it's just what everyone else has done, or it's what's been passed down to them through their generations within their family and parenthood. And, a lot of people don't question it. It's like, oh, well, of course I'm going to do that. And I think for me, until I started questioning things for the health impacts of lots of decisions that seemed pretty much status quo, then when you start presenting your reasons why you think a little bit differently, it does make a lot of sense to people. It's not just because we're randomly creating our own opinion about something. Most of the stuff is really factual.
Yeah, exactly. I do think, and sometimes it helps moms open their mind a bit and go, oh, I didn't even think of that. Or like, I just think that's just another area that they can get some information from. And I always say, go and do your own research and come back and talk to me about anything you want to talk to. But I still think it's important for people to have other people's viewpoints, not just one, or not just go with what they're told, and do a little bit of, educating themselves or looking into other things. And like I
Absolutely.
try to tell moms not to read one book and go by it, because if there was one book you could read to be a good mom, then everyone would own it. I
Mm-hmm.
said you're way better off listening to your gut intuition and talking to lots of people, taking some of their advice, and if it doesn't work for you, then dumping it in the garbage and ask other people for advice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I think, but I also remind moms to really go inward, because there's no shortage of information for us anywhere, right? There's plenty of different authors who are fantastic in their beliefs. They're on, on blog posts, on books. You can watch videos. You can ask your friends. If you ask your handful of friends, sometimes they all would not respond to the same question the same way. But ultimately, I think families just need to look inward and figure out what values are most important to us, and how do we want to approach the situation with our child, and in a way that we ultimately are going to feel comfortable with whatever decision that we make. Because at the end of the day, that's what counts, right?
I completely agree. And I think moms are really good at listening to their gut intuition if they actually stop for a second and think, how do I feel about this? Or do I feel this is good for my child? And I think people are really good at making those decisions when they actually are led in a good direction or stop and think about things for a little while.
Absolutely. Would you say that your intuition has gotten stronger since you became a mom?
Well, probably more protective, definitely. But yeah, I think that if you do have a little bit more intuition,
Yeah. How
but
is
I think you have to like really, really stop and think, and instead of listening to everything on the outside too, because that's hard to do that.
mm-hmm. I'm guessing that you and your husband are congruent with a lot of the values that you have for how you want to raise your kids.
Yes, we are actually, but we came there into that conclusion by a lot of talking and chatting and communicating. It
Mm-hmm.
wasn't one of us didn't just go, this is the how we're doing it, so don't ask any questions. So we both have always put input in, and there's been some like arguments over things, and we've had to come to a conclusion that we agree that's good for the kids or what we want to do. So
Yeah. How has motherhood changed you
um
or added to you? You don't need to be
yeah,
changed, but what would you say some of the biggest gifts of having your children have been?
I think it makes you become very much aware that you've brought two, well, more than two for a lot of people, but people in two beautiful children into this world that you would do anything for. So it makes you feel very much that you have to work hard, protect them, make sure they're happy. I guess it's just made me feel like I have a lot more riding on my shoulders now than I did before.
Mm-hmm.
So I used to not in a blink of an eye would go and bungee jump, rock climb, do anything, and now I second guess everything, going, oh my gosh, I really have to be sure I'm safe because I need to protect these two children of mine. So I think that does change you. You become a bit more protective.
You're just more responsible in some of your choices, I guess, too.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
unless they're gonna rock climb or bungee jump with alongside me, then
um, have you had any times in your life? I mean, I always think that who we are as women obviously changes when we become mothers, but a lot of the things that we bring into motherhood are shaped by our experiences as women. Have you had any really pivotal experiences as a woman that you feel have defined who you are, and then how the kind of mother that you want to be?
um, well, I think Brian and I went and volunteered in Africa, and I believe that changed my viewpoint on a lot of things we have in our different parts of our world, and that probably changed me as a person. And that was right after we got married, and we are talking about having a family, and we saw a lot of families struggling obviously over there with poverty, and it probably changed our viewpoint on how much we want to give back to the world. So that probably changed me as a person,
Mm-hmm.
and be excited to, I guess, have a family and give them as much as we could, but also realize that even giving them things isn't the same as loving them and cherishing them when you see families that have nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So like I guess time with them and enjoying being around them is more important than giving them a toy.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess that changed the way I think of being a mom, but
Yeah, there's no shortage of experiences that on a consistent basis that make us think about who we are as human beings, which then affect how we raise our children.
yeah, definitely. And I do think that, surrounding yourself by good friends and having, a good family upbringing helps a lot, like helped me a lot,
Would that,
wanting to raise a family.
yeah, what would you give anyone credit for being, your biggest influence on the kind of mother that you are, or was it more of a group contribution to you?
Well, I'd probably say, like most people, that your parents have a huge impact on who you are as a mom. And I lost my dad, which is now 15 years ago, which is crazy. But because you remember, because it was the year before we graduated from CMCC.
I do
So
remember. Mm-hmm.
yeah, it was really, really sad to have kids and not have your dad be there to see them. So that was
Mm-hmm.
really hard as a mom. But my mom and dad were amazing parents, and they did instill me with strong values and gave me a really good childhood. And my dad, especially, always was my support person, told me I could do anything, work really hard, and you can do whatever you want. I guess it was just nice to have someone always being your cheerleader.
Mm-hmm.
So which it's amazing that mom is able to come over as much as she is, and she's engaged to a new beautiful man who's, at least my kids have like a nanny and grandpee.
Mm-hmm.
He's lovely, but I still look back and go, how lovely would have it been to be able to have my dad there as well. That was
Mm-hmm.
hard in the beginning,
It's,
but
it sounds like some of the gifts that your dad gave you are, you're passing on to your children though.
yeah, I do think that way. I do feel like I would think about him a lot when I'm saying things. I'll be like, oh, my dad would have really wanted to see them do this, or he would have really wanted to instill in them how good they can be and how brave they are, strong they are. So I think it's good when you have a good upbringing. I think even having Brian's family as like part of what brings up our family. His mom's an amazing strong woman, and she's even been like inspiration for me as a mom. So Brian's dad had MS, and he always stayed home as sick as he was. She raised two boys and a dad and her husband who was in a wheelchair and really sick.
Mm-hmm.
She's pretty strong, like pretty amazing person to do that. So which has made Brian a really strong dad, and because he wants to be able to be hands on because his dad wasn't. So
Mm-hmm.
and that's pretty inspiring to see, to have a strong mother-in-law as well. So,
Yeah. It sounds like you guys have a fantastic support system. They're just not always in Australia when you need them.
oh no, they're very loving. We do chat lots. It's
Yeah.
just they're not here. They can't stand that we're so far away. We
Yeah.
didn't really we didn't really plan it that way. We were supposed to come back home after 2 or 3 years. It's just we just loved the weather and loved the lifestyle, and then we started doing really well in practice. And once I don't know, I guess when you start going down a road and you start really loving where you are, it's hard to stop that. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and from what I'm hearing, you're loving where you're at right now with practice and your children. Do you think moms can have it all?
I think they can have all that they think that is important to them, but if people want every single thing, I don't know if you can have everything. But if you list your top 5 things that's really important to you, you can have all those.
Yeah.
So I think as soon as you put too much energy into one area, then some parts will fall out of another area. So I
Mm-hmm.
do think you have to pick your strong values are, what's important.
Mm-hmm.
And those are probably the things that you do the best in. Like I know even if I get really involved into doing more exercise, or I'm going to run 5 days a week, and then all of a sudden my bookkeeping will fall off to the side and I'll be like, oh no, I don't have enough time for bookkeeping. So it is, I think you can have everything that's important to you. You just have to be really good at finding support and being able to budget your time appropriately.
Yeah, I think it's important for moms, for moms and dads, just to really get clear on what it is that they want at this stage of their life. Because I agree. I think when we feel like our all those buckets we have, if you will, inside us for the exercise bucket and the relationship bucket and the parenting bucket and the work, I said if you're giving some time and attention to all of those things in some capacity, then you don't feel like you're depriving yourself of things, and you feel like you've got some sense of fulfillment. So I
Yeah.
think it's possible, but it's always an ongoing conversation. Um, have you ever had times where you felt like you were overwhelmed and that you just couldn't keep up with everything that you wanted to do? And if you've had moments like that, how do you get yourself back on track to, living the life you want right now?
Yes, of course I've had times like that. But it would just be, okay, I need a day to just really just organize myself again and just get back on track with everything. So I do feel like that is a constant pull for time. Time would be lovely to have a bit more time. Mm-hmm. But I guess you just have to actually be really good at putting your time where it should be, or using it wisely, I guess. And sometimes you do things that you know is not really accomplishing anything, but it's still nice to have a little bit of downtime every now and again.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So it sounds to me like when you have those times of being overwhelmed or feeling like there's too much going on, you just sort of take a step back?
Yeah, take a step back. And I'm not very good at asking for help or delegating. So my CAs will tell you that. But I guess that's when you do feel overwhelmed and you're not getting everything done, then that's when I start to go, okay, what can I give away, or what can someone help me with? And that actually allows me to get back on track and feeling like I can accomplish everything. Mm-hmm.
Well, this has been so lovely chatting with you. If there was any advice that you would like to go back in time and give yourself, what would that be? Is there any advice that you give to the moms in your practice now that your kids are 5?
I would say cherish, like everybody does, cherish them when they're little, because they don't stay little very long. A lot of moms will say, I just want them sleeping more. And I'm like, no, cuddle them longer. If they're sleeping with you, just hold them for longer. And so I do say to them, it will go by quickly. So try to enjoy that when they're little. Mm-hmm. And if there is tough times, it's always good to know that there will be an amazing time ahead to actually take over from that really bad time you had. So there's going to be ups and downs, but I like to tell people that means the good ones seem that much better if you're having a bad day. So. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Thanks so much for all of your ideas and everything you've shared today. Wishing you all the best in family life and practice.
Thank you so much, Melissa. It was wonderful doing the questions. It allowed me to, stop and reflect and appreciate everything I've had, because I'm very lucky to have such an amazing support from my husband and my kids, and it's lovely. So it was really lovely to look back and reflect on everything.
Yeah, thank you. I think I'm going to have to post them at some point, because I've had that comment from a few of the guests now who've said every mom should go through these questions and think about them, because it just helps you reframe, where you're at and what's important to you. So thanks. I'll let you get on with your evening, and we'll catch up soon.
Yeah, that sounds good. Thanks, Melissa.
Okay. There you have it, a great story today from a mom who rocks. I hope you enjoyed today's show. Be sure to head on over to iTunes and subscribe to the podcast so that you don't miss out on any future episodes. When you do that, I'll be sending you a copy of my top 10 tips for moms. These are some of my personal practical strategies I believe that as women we can all benefit from and help us be emotionally and physically as healthy as we can be. When you're also there on iTunes, I would also love it if you left a review. It's really important to leave some reviews, because that helps other people find the podcast, and it helps inspire them to listen and potentially gain some insight from the podcast. Tell other moms that you know would benefit from this show, or most certainly nominate them and let me know who you think I should be interviewing. I'd love for you to connect with us on Facebook as well. Head on over to Everyday Rockstar Mom and join our community there. Thanks so much for joining us today. We'll see you next time.